So I wanted to give you a little direction on lynda.com for the last 3 weeks of the semester or so. And I mentioned that you may want to learn some new materials over the last few weeks if you have time. If not, you are probably going to want to check this out after the course is over, because it's hard to always come back and take classes on everything you want to learn. So many times what you have to do is kind of teach yourself, and this is a good way to do that. So this is a site that used to be, $30 or $40. They still do charge that, but many public libraries give you free access to the site. So I'm using the Lexington Public Library, and if you live anywhere in Kentucky, you can get a Lexington Public Library card. Now, it would be worth checking your local library first before doing that, because if you live outside of certain counties, you may be required to pay $10, but it's only a $10 one-time fee, so it's not that big a deal. But it would be worth checking your local library. If you're out of state, there are thousands of libraries across the country that have the same arrangement with lynda.com. So, for example, if you're in Ohio, the Cincinnati Public Library does have the same agreement. So on the Lexington Public Library site, go to Collections and then click on Databases, and then click on lynda.com here on the left-hand side. And you want to log in with your library card number and whatever PIN number you set up for that. Log in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the search term become a web designer. I'll just click return on that and search for it. And you're going to find learning paths. So if you search for specific things like web design, graphic design, video editing, they do have these learning paths that are pretty cool, because they sort of help organize and guide you, because they have so many thousands of courses available and tutorials that it can be a little overwhelming. But if you check out the learning paths, that's a good place to start. So I'll click on the Become a Web Designer learning path. Some of this would be review for you, obviously, but a lot of it I think you would find very useful. So there's the Introduction to Web Design. Some of this is HTML, like HTML Essential Training. It's not very in-depth, like that one, for example, but it's a good refresher. It covers a lot of the things that we've looked at this semester. This also includes like the user experience design, aesthetics for the web. There's the Illustrator, Photoshop courses. Here's responsive web design, responsive images, and typography. So, this is a really good learning path if you wanted to look at some different tutorials for this week. So I'm looking at the week of November 16th through the 22nd. And, this week, next week, the week after, that's some time. If you have the time, you could work through some of these courses, because they're not especially long. Now, it's a little bit misleading if you say, well, that's an hour and 51 minutes. It takes a lot longer than that, in my experience, to work through these courses. So, you could factor double or triple the time, because you have to have time to try out what they are trying to teach you and practice with it. Most of these do include example files and sites to download as well. So when you go click on these right here, you can see there's like the exercise files, and then there's a zip file that you can download. So this stuff is really valuable to you if you want to learn any more. Also, what you want to do is start adding these to a playlist, so you can add the individual courses to a playlist, or you can probably bookmark this learning track, I believe, as well. I'm not entirely sure how you do that, just looking at it. Maybe you just add the courses to your playlist, but that does give you a learning track. I assume it keeps track of it for you as you're doing that. So that one takes 29 hours. That's quite a bit of commitment, to work through all of those, but that would be where I would start. So that's really all I wanted to cover in this video, is just show you how to log in and then how to find some courses. Now, obviously, you can type in a specific programming language or software. If you type in Adobe Photoshop, or you type in like a term like responsive web design or CSS navigation, you can also come up with some that way. So anyway, that's probably it. The certificates that they talk about, probably not that valuable in my experience. I think having examples for a portfolio would be more valuable than trying to rack up these certificates, because just because you complete these courses and they give you these little certificates of completion, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're any good at it. So I would probably rely on portfolio examples to show what your skills are. That's probably how it's always going to be. There are Adobe certifications that some people work on, and those are fine to do as well. But again, in my experience and in this business, talking to our advisory board, it's really what you can do. What are your examples, your graphic design, your web design examples, actually, working files, working websites, not just certifications in my experience. So anyway, that is all I wanted to cover for this video. And I will be providing you a couple more weekly updates, kind of directing you in the right places for lynda.com to finish up the semester.